This is our homily for Sunday, July 18th. A devout old shepherd lost his favorite Bible while he was out looking for a wayward lamb. 3 weeks later, a sheep walked up to him carrying the Bible in its mouth. The shepherd couldn't believe his eyes. He took the precious book out of the sheep's mouth, raised his eyes heavenward, and exclaimed, "It's a miracle." "No, it isn't," said the sheep. "Your name is written inside the cover." Our readings take us to one of my favorite themes, Jesus as the Good Shepherd. Our first reading from Jeremiah presents God's anger at shepherds who mislead and harm the sheep, rather than leading and protecting them. On the other hand, our gospel presents Jesus as a good shepherd who has the good of his flock always in the first place. Let's look at it. Jesus' disciples had just come back from their first missionary journey, all excited about what had happened. Notice the concern Jesus has for them. He listens to them. He invites them to rest. They are the center of his attention. Then people come because they need more. There's 3 possible reactions that I can think of. The first reaction would be to be annoyed. Jesus could say, "We need some rest, leave us alone." In one sense, this is reasonable because no one can do everything all the time. It doesn't help anyone if we burn out. A second reaction would be ego boosting. "Isn't this great? They're flocking here. Aren't we great and important?" The third reaction is the reaction that Jesus actually had. And I quote, "His heart was moved with pity, for they were like sheep without a shepherd." Mark deliberately uses the image of sheep and shepherd. A literal translation of moved to pity is churning of the guts or innards. In other words, a profound reaction. We might say a gut reaction. What is the difference in these 3 reactions? In the first 2, Jesus and his disciples would be the concern, the ones that are the center of attention. These are self-centered reactions. In the third, Jesus' actual reaction, the other people are the center of attention. At the beginning of this reading, Jesus put the disciples in the center when they came to him. At the end, he puts sheep without a shepherd as the center of attention. There are 2 points I would like to make for us. First, I ask for your prayers that you support me, that I may always manage to be a shepherd who puts the flock at the center of my attention and not my ego or comfort. The support that comes from the community members who share their time and talent is a great help for me in this. I, for my part, will struggle to model myself after the Good Shepherd. The second point I want to make is that we are not only talking about the priest or bishops or the pope. All of us, through baptism, have the obligation to be the good shepherds to those entrusted to our care. We might be parents, teachers, bosses, and so on. But not only those entrusted to our care, also those we meet as we go through our day. Our actions do make a difference in the lives of other people. And the secret to making a positive difference is what Jesus models in today's gospel. Put the others as the center of attention, not our own needs and wants. When we can do this, we are being good shepherds each and every one of us. I end with a good example. An elderly man was lying in the intensive care ward of a hospital, close to death. In his fear and delirium, he kept calling out for his son. The overworked nurse was frustrated because she had called the man's son many times, but he had not arrived. Finally, a somewhat disheveled young man comes into the waiting room, and the nurse runs out and says, "Follow me," and leads him to the bedside of the elderly man. She bent over and whispered into the man's ear, "Your son is here." The old man opened his eyes and could see a shadow form by the side of his bed. He smiled and extended his hand. The young man grasped it and held it tight. The nurse brought a chair to the bedside, and the young man sat and remained with the old man all night long, giving him comfort and hope. As morning dawned, the old man died. The young man put his lifeless hand back down onto the bed and stood up to inform the nurse. When she heard the news, she began to offer her sympathies, but he stopped her. "It's not necessary to offer sympathy to me. I don't know who that man was." "What?" said the nurse. "I thought he was your father." "No," said the young man. "I came into the waiting room and you said to follow you, so I did." "Why didn't you say something when I brought you to the bedside?" the nurse said. "Well," the young man said, "when I came to the bedside, I saw that the man really needed a son, and his son was not there. And when it became clear to me that he could not tell whether I was his son or not, I knew that he needed me." My friends, that is certainly putting the other person first. May we grow in our ability to do that. God bless.